Okay, we've got a crowd. Great to see. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen, and you are here today to learn about the dynamics between franchise operations and marketing. This is the first of what could be a potential series for PromoRepublic, so we'd love to hear your feedback. As a reminder, even though I know you're not new to this game, there is a chat box. So if you have questions, comments, or compliments, no insults, of course, go ahead and put them in the webinar chat. We'll go to those questions as they come in, and then we'll have time at the end for Q&A as well. So please write your commentary in that chat. This is being recorded, so PromoRepublic will be using this on all of their social media channels, and I'm sure in the CMO peer group talk as well. And with that, we'll go ahead and take it away here. So if I don't know you, hi. My name is Kristen. I'm the Chief Growth Officer over at Massage Luxe. Massage Luxe is an emerging franchise brand with 75 units open. We will pass that 100 mark this year, which is very exciting for us. We are in the membership-based massage and facial brick and mortar space. So really fun to be a part of that brand. As Chief Growth Officer, I oversee the marketing from a business to consumer standpoint, but also franchise development. So bringing in new qualified candidates to open spas. And now the stars of the show, I'm going to go ahead and let Jennifer start with her introduction, and then we will meet the other panelist. Jennifer, take it away.
Thank you, Kristen. It's great to be here with you and Andrew. I'm so happy to be here to discuss this topic today. My name is Jennifer Lobianco. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Best Life Brands. And at Best Life Brands, we are a family of brands focused on providing services along the continuum of care. So what does that mean? There's a lot of senior services that our seniors need today. And think of things like home care, skilled nursing, estate liquidation services, and senior care advisors. And those are the different things we focus on. We have 4 distinct brands as part of Best Life Brands: Comfort Care, Care Patrol, Blue Moon Estate Sales, and Boost Home Healthcare. And we have over 550 locations. And it's my responsibility to help the brands grow. So I oversee brand marketing, franchise marketing, and franchise development. And I am thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, next up, Andrew, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, thanks, Kristen. And I'm excited to be on this with Jennifer because we come from a very similar space. So my name is Andrew Dolly. I'm a Chief Operations Officer for Assisting Hands Home Care. So we do in-home senior care. We have 90 offices around the US. I've been franchising since 2007. And my role helps everything from once the franchise agreements are signed to helping them get all their technology in place, get their business open, and then I work closely with our marketing department to figure out how we can best serve our franchisees.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit. I know that in business, marketing and operations, right, they have to be hand in hand. The same goes for IT. And if you're not friends with your CFO, you need to start making friendships with your CFO so you can get the stuff done you need to get done. And the first question that we really wanted to discuss here in kind of a roundtable fashion is, how do marketing and operations teams serve franchisee and franchisor goals? How do you stay aligned? So first, Andrew, if you want to start and just talk about the relationship in your brand and how you are ensuring that there's alignment between the departments, that would be great.
Sure. So one thing that we do is we have our operations team, our support staff. They might go out into a franchisee's business, and they're checking, making sure everything's going okay. And then they say, hey, we want to set you up as an expert in the industry because we recognize how important it is for our franchisees to be an expert on dementia, for example. And so they say, hey, let's set up a workshop. Let's put together a workshop. Now you'll need to go into referral sources. You'll need to have all of the material ready. And now we've passed that idea that operations has come up with, okay, let's create this workshop, and we hand it off to marketing. And then marketing puts all the marketing pieces together for the workshop. So that's one way we do it. Another way that we stay aligned, and I'll just use the pandemic as an example. So anytime you need to develop a program, So with the pandemic, our operations team determined, hey, we need to shift really quick. And one of the things that we realized was that some clients were not comfortable with having caregivers come into the house during a portion of the pandemic. So we needed to develop a program for that. So we put our heads together and we created a program, and then we had the marketing team create all of the marketing pieces, develop it all, and then hand it off to our franchisees so that they could implement it, get it out to the marketplace, explain it to all of our clients, and then we could kind of be working together. So our operations and our marketing team works very closely together to serve our franchisees.
Awesome. And then just a follow-up question to that. Are you meeting in regularity as teams, or is it up to the department heads to meet and align? How does that meeting cadence or the cascading of information happen in your brand?
Yes, we meet every other week.
Okay.
And just kind of a more of a huddle. If we need to do a longer one, we'll do a strategic planning, every year. That's, longer meeting, but at least every week to say what's going on, but then also to solve any problems or any issues that we have. So if there's a specific franchisee that we're trying to help guide a certain direction, we can all be, coming from the same place when we answer them.
Awesome. Thank you. Jennifer, you want to take a crack? How does it work in yours?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I would say a simple if I had to answer this in 2 words, I would say open communication. It's very important that operations and marketing are constantly communicating with one another, because we have, ultimately we have the best interests of our franchisees. That's what we want to do, right? We want to help them grow. I always say there's two objectives. We want to help our franchisees make more money, and we want to make their lives easier. And that's every department within Best Life Brand. That's what our focus is. And so operations and marketing work closely together to make sure we're doing both of those things. So since I oversee brand marketing for all 4 brands, I make sure that I'm really aligned with the brand presidents at each brand. I also have my digital team, my content team, my marketing managers work really closely with the operations teams. Here, I know most companies call it the same thing, but here we call them franchise business consultants. So we have regular meetings with the FBCs. We're on the operations calls where we give them updates on all of our marketing items and campaigns we're running. It's really important, when you're moving really quickly, especially when you have multi-brands, sometimes you want to get something out to the system. And there's been times where you're pushing it through to get it out, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I haven't even communicated this to the operations team yet. And if you miss that step, that's a critical mistake, because it's important that they know what's going on. They're on board. They are the front lines with franchisees. So they have the sentiment of what's going on, what's happening, what they're looking for. And we can get a lot of input from them before we roll it out. And the overall success of anything we do in marketing will be much better when you involve operations and, of course, also franchisees before you actually roll it out. So that's really important to me, is communication, whether it's on the regular, huddles that the operations teams has, or myself just sending a note to the brand presidents, letting them know something's happening. I want them to be aware of it, or actually, using them as a sounding board to give input on anything we're doing in marketing. Again, it's critically important to have that in place. We also talk about strategic goals for the year across all the departments. We meet, like Andrew was talking, during strategy sessions, and we talk about overall business goals, and then how each department is going to support those goals. And while operations and marketing have different goals, again, at the end of the day, it's helping our franchisees grow in terms of revenue, but then also, I always like to say, making their lives easier. So that's important to make sure that, again, have open communication and collaboration across the departments.
Absolutely. I think you bring up some really good points. I'm definitely guilty of this, where, the marketing team will get excited about something. We'll send a quick email about it. And then little do we know that also emails are going out about new point of sale software updates and product stock updates, and maybe best practices on how to sell gift cards or whatever else might be going out. And those franchisees have so much that they need to retain that's being thrown at them from all different departments, as well as just in the day-to-day of their business, that if we don't stay aligned, the franchisees are going to tune us out if they haven't already, which I'm a lot of them do, right? Awesome. Well, we do have a question that came in from Jenny. Jennifer, this one may be more poised for you, so I'm going to have you start. But the question is, what are some parameters to have in place to ensure equitable coverage in the digital space among multiple operating markets? So if you have a market, you have multiple operators in that market, how do you ensure digital coverage? I'm assuming this means in regard to advertising.
Yeah, for sure. So the biggest investments we make are with our advertising funds. And at Best Life Brands, we have 4 distinct ad funds. And some of those ad funds, we have very comprehensive omni-channel marketing campaigns running. And of course, the bulk of it is digital marketing. And we make sure that we have everything we do has to cover the whole national landscape, because our franchisees are spread out across the country. So we make sure when we meet with our agency partners that we actually have the first thing is having, and this sounds so simple, but it's really important to note, having the most updated maps and zip codes of where all of your franchisees have coverage, because they may have acquired another location last week and you need to make sure that you have those zip codes. So we meet with the agency partners and we review them together. And then we look at them and we say, okay, if we want to do, let's say, a national campaign, a national radio campaign, will there be a lot of waste because we're not in 12 states in the United States? In that case, there might be a lot of waste, but there also might be a lot of efficiency because it's cheaper to buy a national radio campaign than a local campaign or a regional campaign. So we do weigh different factors, and sometimes you might run a national campaign even if you're not in every state, because it's just less expensive to do that. Digital campaign, we find programmatic advertising very effective. So as you know, programmatic advertising, that is done based on demographic and behaviors. It's very efficient. It is served up based on impressions. So we make sure that it's served up to everywhere we have locations. And then we're tracking it based on, of course, things like click-through rate, visitors to site, conversion rate, and then ultimately, if the lead's converted on the back end. But things like that are what we balance them very particularly, because we need to make sure that there is full coverage. But we are able to do that with digital advertising campaigns. And again, making sure that we have all the locations covered. And then if you want to do something like a paid search campaign, the most important thing to note with something like that is if you take a budget and try to spread that across many locations, you can have certain markets eat up that budget much quicker, and then the other markets won't have the budget. So you need to make sure, again, your agencies are aligned with your thoughts on that and your strategy, and you might set parameters by region based on the budget and the demand in that market to make sure everybody gets equitable reach and fairness in the investment. I hope that helps answer the question.
Yeah, I think you did. I think you brought up some really good points. And I think it's dependent off of whether or not you have a co-op structure in place too, right? Everybody's ad funds look a little bit different. You may be heavy on the national side, light on the local, or vice versa. In my brand, I know we try to do the bottom of the funnel demand generation in a radius surrounding each location. So your Facebook, your paid search, very tightly targeted. But then if you look at things like a programmatic through a DSP other than Meta or a CTV buy or something like that, that may work better from a market perspective. And if you have multiple operators in that market and you don't have a formal co-op in place, then you're going to have to do some selling, right, to get them all on board and to get them to play along. And so depending on your brand, that can be kind of difficult, and it may be time, if you haven't already, to look at a forced co-op. So more to come on that. That could probably be an entirely different webinar. But in the effort to bring Andrew back into the mix here, let's go on to our second question. What criteria should marketing and operations use when evaluating business initiatives? Andrew, can you talk a little bit about the criteria that you use?
Yeah, so let's say one of our franchisees wants a marketing piece created that has the QR code for their Google reviews, and they want it to put it on their business card. And then they ask our marketing department, they get it printed, they use it, and then that's the only time it's used. And then other franchisee, we roll it out. Hey, once it was created for one franchisee, we let everybody have access to it. And if a lot of people start asking for it and they keep coming back for it, I mean, this is a really simple answer, but one way we know it's working is because people keep asking for it. And they run out of cards and they want more cards. So that's just one example of how we can see, hey, is what we're doing working? Another thing that we do is we always want to listen to our franchisees. And Jennifer, it sounds like we're in the same agreement on this, that we're serving our franchisees. And it doesn't matter how good the initiative is from the franchisor side. If the franchisees don't have buy-in, then they're not going to participate or really take it to the level that it needs to be in. So we're always listening to our franchisees and saying, is this really what you want? And then often it's our franchisees that come up with an idea and say, hey, look, this is what I want to do. Can I try it? And then we have to, okay, let's reflect. Does that match our brand guidelines, or is this, way out of left field? Okay, hey, go ahead and try it and then let us know how it works. And then if it works well and they want to share it with other franchisees, well, they're excited to share it because it works. And other franchisees are excited to listen to other franchisees, and not necessarily as much from the franchisor side. So we found that it's easier for us to help our franchisees kind of come up with what they think is best, because they're the ones that are boots on the ground day to day, building their own business in their local market. And sometimes we have to realize that, hey, even though we're on the franchisor side and we have the brand that we're trying to build, that we don't see the same things that they see. So really we take a lot of our advice from our franchisees, and we think that, we believe that helps build trust with our franchisees, between a franchisor. So I don't know if that's the exact answer that you're looking for, but that's what we're doing, is just really building trust and listening to our franchisees.
I think it is. And to recap it too, I mean, your team is on the ground level with these franchisees, and they are in many brands, so closely connected, have such a better pulse on what the franchisee is feeling than perhaps what the marketing team does. I know that's true in my brand, right? So it's the operations team, specifically the franchise representatives or business consultants, to be that voice for the franchisees when you're sitting in offices or cubicles and you're not in the field. So I think that brings a really good point forth, in that sometimes I know I can feel like the ops team is being devil's advocates, right? Or they're pushing in a direction that may not be what marketing wants, but their whole goal is to be coming at it from the franchisee's point of view and being that advocate. So really great. Jennifer, what about you?
Yeah, it's great listening to you guys talk about, and I agree with everything. I think I go back to what I said on the first question, the answer to the first question, which is, if it needs to help franchisees, it needs to help them increase their revenue, drive revenue, or make their lives easier. And if it's not one of those things, it shouldn't be a business initiative. I also like to, and I've been doing this for a long time, I kind of like plot out anytime we get a request or things we might be considering. And I look at them in terms of like maintenance and return. Like if it's high maintenance, low return, we're not going to do it. Even if one, a lot of times you do these side projects, or a franchisee might be asking about this one thing. And if we can certainly do a project or a design request for one franchisee, we're going to do it. But if it's a larger project, we need to look at holistically. Is it helping drive the business forward? Is it helping our franchisees again, or is it making their lives easier? And if it fits in one of those buckets, it's going to pass the litmus test to go on to the next thing. But again, it's making sure we need to quantify things as well. I mean, when I first started off in franchise marketing, a lot of what I did was brand awareness marketing. We couldn't measure a lot, right? Now we have data points for everything. And you need to set up your key performance indicators before you start any project, and need to make sure that you're focused on the right levers. And you can, what I love about digital marketing is you can pivot constantly, right? You're not buying a television ad campaign for 3 months and you can't get out of it. Digital, you can pivot, you can constantly make changes. So I think that's the thing, is setting your goals ahead of time, and then evaluating the business initiatives based on, again, is it driving revenue or making the lives easier of our franchisees, and what metrics are associated with each one of those things. Is it saving them time? Is it saving them money? Are they adopting the programs that we're rolling out? I think that's something else that in marketing, we come up with these great ideas and we roll out these programs and we're like, well, why isn't anybody using it? Well, did they ask for it? Do they need it? Is it helping them? Did we train them? Like, there's a million reasons why it's not working. And it usually goes back to, we didn't ask for input, or we didn't do a beta test, or did anybody actually really need that? Or was it a nice to have? So this is a big topic. We can unpack this in probably a whole other call about metrics and how to evaluate.
Yeah, and I mean, you did allude to this in the answer to your first question. It really is up to the business and to the business's leadership to set what are those overarching initiatives. And until you have those, you as marketers and operators are not able to come together and say, hey, what does success look like, that then lines up to the success of what the business looks like. And I think making sure that if you're not receiving this, that you're putting some pressure on leadership to put this forth, because the last thing that a department should do is go off and march towards departmental goals without actually understanding what the business needs. So you're certainly approaching it in the right way, Jennifer, for sure, as you know. Cool. Good. All right, let's keep going. All right. Brand compliance. So in franchise systems, we are no stranger to the rogue franchisees who decide to put Superman capes on logo guys and turn things pink and all of that good stuff. So Jennifer, in your brand, how do you work with ops to lock down some of these compliances from a marketing perspective, or even an operations perspective?
Yeah, I love this question. And having done this for a couple of decades, I've seen a lot of interesting things and workarounds. So I always like to say, when someone isn't compliant, I never want to slap someone on the wrist. How I approach it is, why are they non-compliant, right? So why are you not using the logo? Why have you created your own ad campaign? Why don't you like something we've provided? That to me is the question. If you go in there and immediately say, cease and desist, you can't use this, that's not going to work. You need to build relationships with franchisees. I learned a long time ago, and I heard this from someone a million years ago in franchising. I would never go into we had a CEO who said, I will never go into a franchise location and say, you have to do this. You have to take that sign down. First, you have to build a relationship and trust, and then they won't do that. They won't step out of bounds because they trust you and they know there's credibility in the brand. So first we ask that question. If someone isn't using the right signage, let's say, or the right logo, it could be because they don't have the file. They don't know where to find it. They don't have the money to change it. Let's say if you do a brand refresh, they might not have the money right now to go through that and change it. We did a complete brand refresh for one of our brands last year, Care Patrol, in terms of the logo, the website, the collateral. And we gave them a year to make sure that they had time to order new pieces and to change things out, because we weren't going to make something an obstacle for them to do in like 30 days. Once you know that someone is just purposefully, I guess you could say now, not listening to the brand standards, then and we've done, like, operations does secret shopping, right? So they do secret shoppers all the time to check on things like that. And once we know that, it's important to, before, again, you go out there with a warning notice, to understand why they're doing what they're doing. Sometimes they don't want to be a part of a franchise organization anymore, and they feel like they're stronger as an independent. So maybe it's time to come up with a plan that they'll leave the franchise organization. I have a quick specific story about a franchisee at another brand I worked at. I got wind of that he was running his own radio campaign. And, other franchisees came to me and said, you have to tell, let's say, Kristen, you have to tell Kristen that she has to stop using this radio campaign. It's non-compliant. It's not the one you told us we have to use, et cetera. So I said, I'm not going to do that. So I called up this franchisee and I said, hey, I heard you have this amazing radio campaign running. I'd love to hear more about it. Can you send me the media plan and the creative? After a while, they were able to, to do that. They sent it to me. And I said, are these radio ads working? And they said, yeah, I have all the data. And they sent me this data. They were getting amazing conversions based on the radio campaign into actual business. The campaign was excellent. We were able to take that campaign and revise it, and actually then have all of our franchisees use the campaign that this franchisee came up with. It's the story of the Big Mac, right? The Big Mac was a franchise. Everybody uses that story, right? That the Big Mac was a franchisee's idea. So in this case, these radio ads worked. And something that was non-compliant actually became compliant because we ran it through legal and we made sure that everybody had access to it. So that's a long answer, but I just wanted to kind of bring up that a lot of times there are some things in there that you could pull out that you can actually use rather than punishing a franchisee, listening, learning, and actually expanding on what they've done. Luckily, we don't have a lot of franchisees that are non-compliant when it comes to marketing. I think they find the value of the brand, the credibility, the reputation, and they want to be a part of that. So they stay in line with those values.
I love it. Fantastic. Andrew, anything to add there?
Well, that's a great story you had, Jennifer. I mean, that is awesome. That you're able to work with your franchisee and you didn't have to hit them with a stick. And we have this similar culture in our company where I should start with saying that brand compliance starts in our marketing department. So our franchisees all funnel every need they have for their marketing through the marketing department, and that solves a lot of the problems right there. Because we don't have everybody trying to use their own thing in Photoshop. They just come to us and the marketing department, and they do it for them. So it's easier. It's easier for our franchisees to just get it the right way. And it's harder to be out of compliance because you have to do a lot of work otherwise. So that's one thing. And then if our franchisees, if our ops team sees that something is outdated, then we'll approach our franchisee and say, hey, look, you're using this old brochure. And in fact, this happened this week. We found an old brochure on a link on a website, and the brochure was fine. It was just outdated, didn't have our current look and feel. So I reached out, let the franchisee know, hey, we have a new one. Can we update it for you? He appreciated that. He wasn't trying to be incompliant. It was just on this website, and it was just a link, and he wants the newest version. So we updated that for him, and he appreciated that because now it's now in the whole picture of the whole website instead of kind of this off old look. So I think that it's really important to work with the franchisee. We don't have a lot of ones that have gone rogue, and I think that's partially because it's just easier for them to follow the system. But another thing that we do is we have marketing calls with our franchisees where we give things to them months in advance. And this is something that we've learned over time is some franchisees, they need stuff the week before. They don't care about Christmas till the week before Christmas. Others need it 2 months before. So they're putting together their marketing plan in October for Christmas. So we've had to adjust how we present our marketing materials to our franchisees based on what they what their preferences and what they prefer. So another thing that we do is we involve more than the franchisee in the marketing material. So often they'll have somebody in their office, one of their employees, and we give them access to the marketing department because our franchisee may not want to be in compliant, but it's their employee that might end up, the one that's doing the work. So if we give them access, it actually kind of nips it in the bud. And so they join the calls as well. It's not just our franchise owners that are on the call. It's everybody that's involved in marketing the business. And so they'll work with our director of marketing and get the materials they need. Another thing that we do to ensure brand compliance is that we allow them to customize a lot of the pieces. Instead of just saying, here's the piece, you have to use it as it is, we allow them to make a lot of customization. So it might be changing out the picture, depending on what part of the United States they're in. They want a different picture, different diversity, whatever it is, or a different message. And it might be under the same topic, but the way they want it presented, they want it to be just a little bit different because they're afraid that the way that it's currently structured, it might offend one of their referral sources. And so we're willing to pivot and make changes on the marketing material itself, so that they feel like, hey, this is something that's really valuable for me, not just the initiative overall, but I can use it in my location. So I think allowing them to be us, allowing flexibility and allowing them to make some changes unique to their location really helps.
Yeah, this is great. If you're pulling anything away, it's that not a lot of hand slapping is going on. And there's a lot of what can we do in order to make sure that you're getting what you want without violating compliance. And I think the premise of this is that happy franchisees tend to be more successful in business, and happy franchisees sell more franchises. At the end of the day, If you have happy franchisees in your system, they're going to look to open additional units or they're going to tell other people that they are happy. And so while that doesn't mean that we can be yes men and that we can allow everything, right? Brand is important. We need to protect it. We also need to make sure that we aren't coming down too hard and that we're finding that balance in the partnership with our franchisees. So awesome. Great. I have another question that came through the chat. Feel free to continue to fill that chat up with questions. Again, Jennifer, this is a follow-up to the digital advertising question that was posed earlier. How do you attribute local digital advertising if your locations are in the same radius or region?
Yeah, so we have the way our territories are designed, they're not, so we don't have that issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would make sure that you could probably do it by, I mean, you could definitely do it by zip code. I'm not exactly sure what they're talking, what the overlap is. If it's multiple franchisees in a designated market area, like in a DMA, or are they actually sharing the same zip codes? That's different. Usually they don't, because it's usually based on territory where you have specific zip codes are for your location. So I'm not actually sure. Maybe they could follow up with another question so I could help answer it better. Because I'm not sure I can follow that without
feel
knowing.
Free, whoever asked this, it was anonymous. So feel free to go ahead and provide some more detail. I mean, it is, to Jennifer's point, right? You likely have a defined territory. Digital demand generation, like Facebook and paid search, you can get pretty tight around that territory and apply exclusion audiences. But if you're in a unique scenario, you may have to look at like a market page where the consumer is actually choosing which location or which franchisee they want to do business with. Obviously not ideal in that you're adding an extra step to the mix for the consumer, which will lengthen the journey. But yeah, feel free to go ahead and give us some more information. We'll try to get you an answer there. In the meantime, we'll move on to our fourth question here. How can you find common ground? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Let me just interrupt really quick and I guess give a different view of how we use our advertising funds. So with our ad fund, our franchisees at the beginning said, hey, yeah, this is great. We're all pulling our money together. But then after a while, they said, hey, we'd actually like to use the money ourselves. Would you be willing to lower the ad fund and let us use the money ourselves? And that's the path that we've chosen to do. So we'll never run a Super Bowl ad. You'll never see an Assisting Hand Super Bowl ad. But that's because our franchisees have said, hey, you know what, let's contribute less to the brand ad fund and let us grow the business that we feel is best and give us the control. So we still have some, so we can get some economies of scale as we need, which our franchisees appreciate. So we try and balance that out. And we still have the option that if we wanted to, we could increase the ad fund back up. But right now ours is at 0.5%, which is very, very small. And I think it drives vendors bonkers because they come and ask us, well, do you have a budget for this? It's like, well, not really. But because we let our franchisees have so much autonomy in their own marketplace. So that doesn't directly answer the question, but I think the question kind of hinted at how do our franchisees feel fair that they're getting the ad dollars spent fairly? And we've kind of taken the approach, we'll just let them keep the money, most of it, as much as possible.
Do you monitor whether or not they're actually spending locally, or is it kind of like, hey, listen, you should spend because it's going to be good for your business, but we're not going to babysit you on that?
Yeah, they're incentivized to spend because they're they're going to grow their business. I mean, that's how you're going to grow your business. But there's so many different ways that you can attribute things as marketing expense that it doesn't make sense for us to police it. And nobody wants to be looking over their shoulder. So the resources it would take to police it, it's not worth it. We could spend so much time saying, hey, you didn't spend X amount and you should have. And then they come back and say, well, we did because we just attribute it to marketing. And so we don't police it, but we can tell who is marketing and who isn't marketing as much.
Yeah, you'll know. No, I was just going to say, when they're not spending marketing dollars, because you'll see anything that we can measure in terms of website metrics, lead volume, and then you could just see their revenue. You know when they stop marketing. Even if you're a successful franchisee, you're always marketing, right? I love this topic, Andrew, because the ad fund is something that, the ad funds are always a hot topic with franchisees, and our marketing advisory councils, and I'm sure they are with you guys too. I managed 4 different ones here, so it's always interesting to have different franchisees on different ones and hear the conversations that happen from one brand to the other. And I do think the ultimate success comes when the advertising fund is spending on things that franchisees potentially cannot afford on their own, right?
Yeah.
So the ad fund is spending on things, I'm not talking about Super Bowl ads, and things like that. But I'm talking about there are other types of economies of scale that you can invest in, and marketing programs and marketing technologies potentially. And I know we're going to get into that question, which an ad fund could invest in that a local franchisee, no matter how much money they have, they wouldn't be able to do on their own. But then there's the co-op level, which Kristen talked about, which I'm a big believer in co-ops and how co-ops can work together to really leverage regional buys that support what's happening nationally. And then local buys are driving things for individual franchisees. So when we do discovery days, I always show this diagram that shows the 3 levels of spend: national, regional, co-op, and then local, regional, co-op together. And when all those things are happening at the same time, this like symbiotic sort of relationship, that's when you see the greatest success, I believe, because you're hitting consumers at all different levels of marketing, whether they're just becoming aware of the brand and your services, or they're ready to make a decision. You will be there at every part of the continuum and every part of the funnel. And that's why I see the value of all the different types of marketing. That's why this question, I think, was great, because it kind of made us think about things that we're trying to interpret, I think, what the question says, but it made us talk about all these things that might help answer that, and also just drive marketing success forward. At the end of the day, again, making our franchisees successful, no matter where the spend is, and making sure it's all measurable, right? That's super important.
PromoRepublic, this is a whole nother webinar opportunity discussing ad funds. That would be a meaty one. So, okay, awesome. So how do you find common ground when you're evaluating or even rolling out new tech stack between marketing and operations? Andrew, you want to go first?
Yeah, and I think what we were just really talking about kind of goes right into this question. And just to echo what Jennifer said, does it help make our franchisees' life easier? Because if it is, they're going to be more willing to do it. And then is it going to help them grow their business? Because ultimately, that's what the franchisees want to do. They want to grow their business. Just to continue kind of in the ad fund vein, when we are looking at different initiatives, there are definitely technologies that we have that our franchisees love that they would not be able to get by themselves. And then the support as well, the support that we offer for our franchisees that they wouldn't be able to do by themselves. We just really finished a discovery day last week, and the potential franchisee said, well, this is way more marketing than we thought that we'd have. Marketing support, marketing materials, and they're like, we knew they had the operations side, and we knew we'd be able to have access to the local, but we didn't know all of the marketing that's in place and all of the technology that lets us kind of use the marketing and help us grow our business. So when evaluating, what technology we're going to add, I've learned by experience that it is hard to implement something new. Our franchisees are so busy running their business that if you're implementing something new just to be new, it is going to fall flat on its face. So it needs to be something that's really going to make them money or really save them time. And hopefully it's something that they're recommending the change to be made. Or they see that, hey, this is where we're falling behind other competitors, or this is where we want to stay ahead. So just to make a change, we've been willing to stay with technology that may not be number one in the marketplace because our franchisees know how to use it, and moving the whole system over, it's not worth the hassle. And that's something that I've learned by experience by trying a different technology at a different time, and then realize, it wasn't worth the hassle. And some franchisees say, this is great technology, we've had it for 4 years and I still don't use it because I'm still too busy. And so sometimes they recognize that they should be using it, but they're just so busy and running the business day to day that it can be hard sometimes to get them to really tune in and to use it. And some of our franchisees didn't grow up using technology like I did. So learning something new for me on technology, that's really easy. But for some of our franchisees, they're like, I don't want to get on Facebook. So, even something like that, to me is kind of second nature. It's a little more difficult. So we have to keep in mind, even if the technology is really great, will our franchisees actually use it? Or will they just say, you know what, I know how to do my business, I'm running it now, and kind of just stay out of the way and let me grow it when it comes to the technology. So it's definitely a balancing act.
Awesome. Great. Jennifer?
Yeah, Andrew, that all of your answers there were things that I was thinking were so in line, like on this answer to this question, because I totally agree with you. Like, just for the sake of having this cool new technology or marketing system or automation system or tool doesn't matter. I mean, there's certain things right now that I'm thinking about in terms of implementing on the marketing side when it comes to technology that I know it'll make my team's lives easier and more efficient, but it doesn't integrate with the legacy systems on the operation side. So it's going to be very difficult to be able to implement some of them. So even if we could implement them, it might cost a lot of money. It might take way too much time. And then franchisees, the learning curve is going to be really steep. And also, are they really going to use it? So those things just aren't going to happen because it just doesn't make sense for many reasons. So I'm totally in line with you on that, because I've seen it before where you invest all this money and you have the best plan, and then it falls on its face and now you're out all this money in technology because you didn't really think about the end user and how it was going to be implemented. Even when, the best laid plans in terms of all the training you're going to do and things like that, it just won't happen. So whether it comes to, I think developing a new help desk solution, right, platform, or marketing automation, email marketing campaigns out of a new system, anything we think through, we're constantly thinking about how does it affect, of course, franchisees and getting their buy-in. The other thing too that I over the years have found really interesting is, when it comes to, let's say, I'm thinking about AI and chatbots and things like that. I found over the last 5 to 10 years that, or tech solutions, franchisees are often trying to do things on their own and implement things on their own because there are first movers. There are franchisees that are technologically savvy that they want to try things on their own. And I give them the credit for doing that and trying that, and they'll come to me and ask my opinion, and I'll work with them on it and try to figure out a way for them to be able to do that outside of the system, because I do believe in making sure that we're constantly innovating. Just because we can't innovate a complete enterprise solution for something doesn't mean that we can't test things and try things. And because again, there are franchisees I know that are doing things, and rather than them hiding, I say, come to me and please tell me what you're using. They're using solutions sometimes that I've never even heard of, right? And I'm really interested to know, because maybe we can implement it, but if we can't, maybe we can help them make sure it's brand compliant and it's integrated with the website, and they're not going rogue and developing their own site and their own landing pages. That's really important because, of course, that'll affect the brand. But marketing technology is a big piece of evaluating our 1, 3, and 5 year plan right now. And again, making sure that we have the right things in place to make their lives easier. There's so much chatter right now about a lot of new features, and it's going to be interesting to see how that transforms over the years, especially on the franchise side. I just, on a side note, I read something interesting about, it was like a leadership article, and it was talking about different generations. And it says right now, as managers, we're working with 4 different generations right now of people, whether they're reporting to us or we're reporting to them or they're franchisees. And I found that interesting because, to Andrew's point about certain people not being able to adapt to technology at a quicker rate than others, if you think about it, if we're trying to talk to 4 different generations of people, it's like such a different conversation, right? And how do we do that? And I think that's going to be interesting over the next several years on how we figure out the right way to move forward with these innovations. Great question. I love it. Love the topic.
Love it. Good. Okay. So we have some questions coming in. One really, really good one that I can't wait to get to. But while we're talking about tech stack, I think moving on to the next slide here before we get to those questions makes a ton of sense, because as marketers and as operators, we can all agree less is more. when it comes to what we have to ask our franchisees to do, particularly when it comes to tech stack. They can't have 7 different usernames and 8 different passwords to figure out whether or not they're doing well in marketing or not doing well in marketing. And the same goes for the corporate staff too, right? When you have a plethora of agency support, a lot of good comes from that, but it's also a lot of time management that needs to happen and relationship management that needs to happen. And we all know that these webinars that PromoRepublic have put on for us and the CMO Peer Talk group that they manage, it's so beneficial for us to come together and to talk and to learn together. But if you haven't looked at their platform yet, I just actually sat down with them a couple of weeks ago. It is really cool. It's a local intelligence dashboard that basically blends your search, your social, your reputation management into one area. It's completely proprietary, so you're not going to see this platform anywhere else. And what's great about it is you get it all in like one dashboard, so you can really see, hey, how does this all work and how is it intertwined? But also it provides you recommendations on how to better whatever it is that you need to better. So what you need to do from a local search perspective or reputation management, for example, this is something that internally you can use, or you can grant your franchisees access to it. So if you haven't taken a look, you should. They're at the IFA, but they're also accessible outside of the IFA. If you're not going to the IFA, they are exhibiting. Their booth number is 326. Just make sure. Yep, 326. So you can visit the PromoRepublic booth, which is going to be awesome. They have swag there, and you'll be able to see the dashboard in real life. So I know I'm looking forward to seeing them there. But in addition to their booth, they're actually hosting an event. It's that Tuesday, yeah. Then at 9 a.m. You can register for it just by scanning this QR code, or just go to their their LinkedIn page or the CMO Peer Talk page. You'll be able to find it. I'll post it as well. But what's great about this is they're bringing together marketers to talk about how to recession-proof marketing strategy. In that event, they have swag. So you got to go get your swag. You know how that goes. And they have yummy drinks and food too. So I will be there. I know a bunch of other marketers will be there. Come huddle up with us, talk to the best, and figure out how to make your 2023 strategy for marketing shine. So and thank you. We just got the link in the chat. So if you need the link in the chat, go ahead and copy and paste that so you can register. You don't want to miss out on that event. And with that, before we let you go, we've got some Q&A. This one is a really good one. What is one of the most successful initiatives you've executed for a brand you have worked for? Jennifer, you want to start?
Sure. Oh yeah, this is a great question.
I didn't give you much time to think about it, so you're going to have to.
Yeah. So in the last year, I'll point to one that we just implemented last summer that's still running now. So for one of our brands, Care Patrol, we were looking at a way of getting in front of consumers and potential clients, but not through like the ordinary way of just selling our services. And Care Patrol provides they're senior care advisors, right? So they help advise on the right choice for seniors, whether they should move into assisted living facility or something else. And but we wanted to educate. We didn't want to sell. And so we actually implemented a podcast called My Care Advisors, and you can find it on our carepatrol.com website. And it's been extremely successful, not just in the number of downloads. We're almost at like 20,000 downloads now for the first of its kind podcast, but also in terms of driving leads, right? So the idea was to create awareness, to educate consumers about different things like when is the right time to consider assisted living, but also, dementia care, memory care, things like that, and things to consider. And by educating consumers, you are developing this trust, this credibility, and that will benefit tenfold down the line. And again, we've seen now hundreds of leads come in that we're looking right now to convert them into placements. And again, we're just really excited with the opportunity to help people and to educate them. And that's been our greatest, I think, success in terms of not just driving leads, but really having people come back to us and say, thank you so much for that information. I went home and visited my mom at Christmas time, and I listened to your podcast about things to look for when I'm home visiting my parents to see if they might need care and extra help. And it really helped me. So when you hear those things and you get that input, that's even, even better than anything I can ask for, that that you're providing this education and resource and this service. So that, I would say, has been something that's been great to work on, and it's continuing this year.
Love it. Awesome. Andrew, your turn.
So I guess there's a couple of ways you can evaluate, like, what is the best. It could be, does it have the most engagement from franchisees? Because that's a different answer than what it could be. So I'm going to say that one of the things for us was we rolled out a package where franchisees had access to all the documentation they need for their caregivers and clients, and it's state by state, so there's different requirements, and it's all done by attorneys, and that was something that they wanted, and it was just too much. It would require too much bandwidth from the franchisor side. So we partnered with a law firm, and then now they have this package for our franchisees, and that got like 100% adoption because it made their lives easier. The franchisees no longer have to worry that the mediation paragraph in their document is going to come back to bite them. So I would say that was awesome because it's something that our franchisees wanted, and some franchisees didn't know how much they needed it until it was there, and they could log in like, wow, I don't have to try and find the form or make my own. It's right here, everything I need, and I don't have to worry that I'm going to get sued and not have the right form to use. So when we introduced that at our annual convention, we actually got a standing ovation, which was awesome from our franchisees. So I guess that's just, and I don't want to take too much credit for it, but I think that was listening to our franchisees, and this is just an example of when you give them something that they want, they're going to use it, and they love using it. So we were just able to use some economies of scale and get something. And I guess this goes back to earlier what we were talking about. A franchisee, if they wanted this just one-off, it would be unaffordable for them. But because we can do this system-wide for them, it is something that they all benefit greatly, and they're all willing to use. So I would say that is the best success, or a really great success that we've had from adoption from our franchisees, is giving them a legal package for all of their documents that's always updated by attorneys, and then they can, if they need to reach out to the attorneys and get advice specific for home care, well, then they have that option, and then they just pay for that themselves.
Awesome. Cool. I'll do something really cool. Probably not the most successful thing we've ever done, but something that's different and fun. So in our business, we're all about that lead crack. Like, let's just put all the money towards the bottom of the funnel and like get as many clients as we can. And as a result, consideration, awareness building, and retention tactics to a fault take a back seat because the franchisee is, focused on the revenue coming in right now. And we all know that as marketers, in particular, like the balance between the short game and the long game is a hard one for even us. And now break it down to a brick and mortar, and it doesn't exist. It's a short game only, right? For right or for wrong, probably for wrong. But one of the campaigns that we rolled out did focus on retention, and we're a membership-based business, and we decided to run a Member of the Year campaign in which we did an online form in which members could tell us why they use Massage Luxe to better their health and wellness, which is one of our positioning strategies, right? Massage is beautiful and great and luxurious, but at the end of the day, it's about health and wellness. So it did help us lean into our positioning a little bit more. But in launching that form, we got thousands of stories of amazing people who are using us every day to better their health and wellness. We narrowed that down to 10 and did an online public vote to award a Member of the Year, in which they got a free year-long membership to Massage Luxe, which was awesome. But a couple of things came from that outside of just the general running of the campaign. Probably the most impactful was that our franchisees were reminded that they're not just in a business, but they're in a business with a purpose. And it was good for them to read the stories of people who are really struggling with mental health, physical health, you name it, right? And how they are making a difference in their communities. And in addition to that, we were able to use those stories in public relations and social media to reinforce the brand positioning and give us a library of content that sustained through the year, which is a challenge as a franchisor in that we're not in our franchisees' business on the day-to-day. So sometimes collecting that social media content or those stories around your brand are harder to get at. And this allowed us to do it all in one fair swoop. So great question. Thank you for answering or for asking that, Jenny. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to write them in the chat. And with that, we will give it just a couple of minutes here. No other questions came in thus far. So I think we're good. We'll stay on for a few more minutes, but we appreciate PromoRepublic for putting on another awesome webinar for us. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you all walked away with some great insight, and we hope to see you at the IFA. I will see you at the event on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. We cannot wait.
Thanks, Kristen, for hosting. Thanks, PromoRepublic.
Of course.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay, bye.